First thing we do is clap. Because everyone's right where you're supposed to be. And whatever you have going on right now is your opportunity. It's your opportunity for growth, for change, for something new, for releasing of something old, and for fresh new movement forward. So we are going to explore those things tonight. This afternoon I spent some time up at UGA, and I was speaking with some graduate students in their textile and merchandising program. And it was very interesting because we talked about how to show up available and how important that is. And so what I discovered is that they were very open to the idea and they were willing to try it. Being open and willing is one of the main keys to change. We don't have to have it all figured out to be open and willing. We don't have to have all the answers. We don't have to understand the whole problem. We don't have to have it already. But by proclaiming and owning being open and willing, we start the gears moving for us, especially when it comes to change. Each one of you, with what you stated at the beginning of class, wants to change something. You either want more or less. But none of you wants to stay where you are. And so embracing that change, even though it's uncomfortable, especially when we're trying to let go of what we control. Because when we control something, we think we have power. And when we think we have power, we think we have security. And when we have security, we think that we're safe. And therein is, they're all about change too.
Changing the exterior.
They're going to change the exterior or interior or paint or whatever. They're going to have a good time creating change. So, but the control is always an illusion. Okay? Now, we want to release control on one side, but at the other side, we want to be in control. In other words, that control, although we use the term control, is really about we want to feel empowered. We want to feel like we have our power. We want to feel like our sources of power aren't outside of us. So what can be an external source of power? An ex relationship.
You just had to hit it right on the head.
It's the easiest thing to go to. We've all been there. So an ex relationship. It can be a business partner. It can be a child, adult child or a younger child. It can be a parent. It can be our job or career or somebody associated with that. It can be an event from the past. That every time something happens in the now moment, we go right back there. And we relive it. We re-experience it. We still feel all the pain associated with it. We still feel all the guilt, all the shame, all the lack of control. Whatever was involved then, we re-experience now. It's almost as if nothing's changed except time has passed. But therein is the opportunity too. Because it's all about getting our power back. So how can we get our power back without being in control? Well, getting our power back has nothing to do with the other person. It has nothing to do with the ex, the kid, the job, the economy, the president, our business, or the goal that we have. Getting our power back has to do with our perception of us and how we perceive our power. and how we look for evidence of our power. So, I am real confident that I have power, or I'm empowered when I see evidence of my empowerment or evidence of my power. So evidence of power might be, I demand that you do something and you do it. Okay, that would be one version. A demand of my power might be, or a concept of my power might be making a demand or creating an expectation for somebody else that they have to meet in order to get something from us. Love, attention, affection, conversation, acknowledgement, whatever. All of those are illusions of power. Because why would we want somebody to have to respond to us? Again, that creates the illusion of security and safety. Oh, they're responding, therefore they respect me, they love me, I'm needed in their life. But all that we really did by projecting that power outside and getting a response back was create the illusion of need, the illusion of want. When in reality, they don't want us, they can't wait to break free from us and our expectations. So, mind your expectations. When I say mind your expectations, I mean mind your expectations. In other words, put your mind on your expectations and be present with it. Think about it. Be willing to set judgment aside and just go, isn't it interesting I have an expectation? Isn't it interesting I have a demand? Because an expectation is also a demand. What kind of demands would I make of other people?
Time.
Time?
Attention.
Right. Attention?
Affection.
Affection? Time. Attention. Affection. Anything else?
Respect.
Huh?
Respect.
Respect. What's something tangible?
Money.
Money. Okay? And so, if we look at each one of these things, we can make it about, we expect or demand the other person to give us these things. Why?
Feels good. Value.
Okay?
Makes us feel worthy.
Okay, worth. Value. Anything else? How about the L word? Love. Accepted.
Safe.
What's that?
Safe.
Safe. And so we equate, actually, we think that demands equals this stuff. And to some degree it might a little bit if we do get somebody's time or attention, we at least feel like we're noticed. Noticed. And who doesn't want to be noticed? Who doesn't want to be accepted? Who doesn't want these things? Everybody wants them. In fact, we have a human need to experience them, right? And when's the first time we experience them in our life?
Parents.
Hopefully with our parents. Or our human beings who have a role of a parent. Okay? And so we put all of we instantly pop out into this world expecting or demanding or needing these things, okay, as a way of survival. Because when we're a child, we really can't survive without it, right? We need food, we need clothes, we need attention, we need those things. And we automatically respond this way when we're a child because that's all we know to give back. All right? Things start to change though as we become adults. The thing is sometimes those needs, these don't change the older we get. They're still there. Okay? But what happens is we're still looking at other people as our source. Let's see. Here's us. And here's them. And we look to them as our source. And that creates a dependency. And that creates attachment. And so in the absence of this person, we've elevated them up now to not only somebody who gives us time, but somebody who becomes the source of these things. And we go, if that person ever goes away, if that person ever stops, if that person ever rejects us, if that person ever withholds affection, then where is my source for affection? Where is my source for income? If this job that I put an expectation or demand or hope in goes away. Okay, so we're talking about people, work, jobs, experiences. So I've drawn a person here, but really it represents something that we've made a source for something in our life.
So dependency has somewhat of a negative connotation when you're having when you say you're dependent on that person. But then when you put it with job and it's like, okay, I do depend on my job. You know, it is a dependency. Is that a negative thing? Because then when you're with a significant other, as you become a couple, you do interdepend on one another.
Yes.
And that's a source of a healthy relationship,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
dependency doesn't necessarily mean a negative thing with this, or is that?
No,
Okay.
no, it's not necessarily negative. Because this is a dependent relationship here, so to speak. If you guys aren't here, I'm not talking. If I'm
We're
not
here,
talking,
we're not learning.
I would be. And you'd be somewhere else doing something.
Exactly.
But, so, relationships automatically create a give and receive, dependency, so to speak. But what happens is we make this a codependency. When I elevate the relationship or what I'm getting from the relationship to meaning something about me.
Mm.
So does that mean there's a lack of self-worth in there somewhere?
Absolutely, absolutely. I've identified my worth to something that I'm getting over here from this source. Okay? And so now my emotional center responds to that instead of responding to what? Instead of responding Where's our source? Where is our source? Where is our real source?
So,
It's us.
Inside of us,
Within.
within, as we are connected to our divine spiritual source, whichever that might be, something higher than ourselves, or more altruistic. I mean, you don't even have to believe in God for these principles to still play out. It becomes central to this. But we don't learn this. People don't teach us this. At the best, we've had parents who've demonstrated some of it for us to some degree, if we were the lucky ones. And we've had people role play around us, and we've had some other influences. But intuitively speaking, we still look outside of us for validation. We need validated.
Well, I know as a teacher, I can sit there and teach to my heart, and
Sure.
to your heart's content, and then you give them a test, and they just go, and you're like, okay, was that me, or are they just a bunch of knuckleheads
Right.
who didn't pick up the textbook and read it? So how are they going to pass it? But you do, and then our society has such a stance of outside. How much outside influence impacts us. I mean,
Yes.
it's huge.
Yes.
It's for kids, it's great. It's for kids, it's social media and acceptance among their peers. There's so many external influences that can negatively or positively impact us, and it's so hard nowadays because, like I said, my value as a teacher, I can feel like horrible one minute, and then all of a sudden you get it, and yes, I got it, or they got it, yay,
Yeah.
and so taking out even just relationships, but even with your job, how much you do rely on that external influence for that validation.
Yes.
I'm just as good of a teacher as I was last year, or the year before, or this year, or next year,
Right.
hopefully getting better, but,
Sure.
not
Well,
trying to say the tank, but I do get that validation
Sure.
from those wonderful EOC scores that come back out, and those wonderful teacher rating systems that they love to put us on a
Sure.
4-point scale,
Yeah.
however.
Well, that's just it. We all want a sense of purpose, and
Right.
we want to feel like we are worthy and we are valued. And so when we're in our job and we're producing and we're selling or we're teaching and we're in court or whatever it is, and we are getting feedback based on how we're showing up in that environment, that has worth and it has value, and it helps validate this sense of purpose of who we are. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with getting a sense of pleasure or feeling a sense of purpose from work. There's nothing wrong with getting that kind of pleasure and feeling a sense of purpose, like you're raising a child, or you're in a committed relationship, or you're taking care of a parent or a friendship or whatever. That is awesome. That's how it's supposed to be. We're human beings. We're created for connection. We're created for relationships. All of this is a dynamic to a relationship. What happens, though, is we start to get our sense of we lose connection of our own sense of purpose that's out here. What if I lose my job? What if I lose the relationship? What if I go bankrupt? What if somebody in my family dies? What if I break up, get divorced? What if a child rejects me? Okay? If we're still looking to that thing, whatever it is, for this, okay, we gotta control that, because we can't survive. Emotionally, we don't want to survive. Because when this goes away, now there's space there. Not only is there space, but there's this uncertainty now. Oh, I just lost my job. Now what? I gotta go find one. Or create one. And I need money. My family needs money. Okay? Or I'm trying to let go of a relationship. When the relationship is absent, now what? I'm uncertain. Who am I? I was in a relationship for so long. I gave all this time and attention and investment in a relationship, and now it's over. Okay? And we feel empty, we feel vacant, there's space. That also is a natural part of life, is experiencing that space of a loss or change or shift, because that's how we learn and grow and overcome. But we don't want to do that because there's pain here. This is pain. You know, loss, uncertainty, that creates this pain, and nobody likes to be in that pain. Okay? And so in order to numb the pain, we try and exercise control. No, you can't leave. You can't leave me. You're not supposed to leave me. How can you leave me? Or no, you can't fire me. I was doing a great job. The business can't go out of business. You can't let me go and bring in somebody else. So I'm going to overcompensate in order to escape this, because it feels so icky. I'm going to overcompensate, and I'm going to try to control. Because I feel unsafe in the absence of this. And so what do? What's the solution? Because this has been meaningful, or might be meaningful. It could even be healthy as opposed to unhealthy, or have a mix of both. But what do? The first thing we have to do, first thing that's really required, is to take our attention off this and put it here. Self-care becomes now the primary goal. Self-care. And our capacity or capability of self-care depends on our life experience, how good or bad we've done with it to date, what we think of ourselves. It has to do with the state of our heart, and and our REAL, our respect, esteem, acceptance, and love, our yourself. So because it depends on that, this can be high, medium, or low, or somewhere in between. So our ability to be resilient when something shifts that we're trying to control depends on who we are, not what's happened. And so who you are is always greater than what's happening to you. But that's hard to see in the moment, because we're human and we make attachments.
Can you repeat what you just said?
Who you are is always greater than what is happening to you. Okay? See, we tend to think the opposite. No, the job loss is the end of the world for me. The breakup or divorce is the end of the world for me.
Could it also be like how we individually respond to a situation that has presented itself before us? I mean, sometimes what I think I try to do is I try to tell myself that I'm the most important person that I know. And with that, then I have to feel good about who I am and what's before me, and not let whatever is in front of me, that circumstance, really dictate to me who I am or how I'm going to respond or react. Am I going to react, or am I going to respond to this particular situation in front of me?
Excellent. Joy is right on. Okay? So, and how we respond to that depends on our sense of this. Who has the power? Where is the power? Joy just described personal empowerment. Personal empowerment is, in the presence of a challenging situation, do we react to the situation or do we respond to it? Okay? Well, if we react, I'm reacting from this. Okay?
From emotions?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm having an emotional reaction that is freaking out, that I can't control, and something that I've attached a lot of meaning to is going away or even just changing. Oh, this relationship's not supposed to change. What? Oh, people aren't supposed to change. No, you're supposed to always be one, two. You know. Nobody, that doesn't happen in real life. Nothing stays the same. But don't we have that expectation?
Mhm.
That the job should always be there, the job should never change, the clients should never leave, the relationship should never shift. Somebody we love is not supposed to die, you know, especially if it's unplanned and accidental. You know, all these crazy things happen, and that makes us feel powerless. So how does my ego respond to restoring power? I gotta control. What can I control? I'm out of control. Nothing is responding to me. It feels like everything's happening against me. I don't have any power.
May I say something in response to that? Because do you feel that sometimes in a life experience, especially a catastrophic experience, we don't know the strengths that we have until we are put in situations. Say for instance, like, you know, a bodybuilder that you see lift up 500 pounds over their head. Well, that's in the training in which we're here doing now, is building that strength and that character so that we know when we're faced with a challenge that deep down in our core is where our answer lies. But it had not been for that challenge, we wouldn't realize that it was there.
Absolutely. Absolutely, that's true. And that is the whole point of what we're doing here, and where our focus wants to be every day is like we're in training. And we're training our power in here, and we're practicing that power in here. That's why we try and show up available. Showing up available means we've got all the power right here, and we're open to an experience. But we've gotten real clear on how we want to show up in that situation. And it could be a job promotion, or it could be being fired or terminated. Okay? The only thing different because could not being fired or terminated really be the best thing that ever happened? Absolutely. Okay? So why would I naturally resist something that could be good for me?
Fear.
Okay.
Fear.
Fear. Yeah. Yeah, we don't like to do this because it feels uncomfortable. But it's almost like sometimes it's helpful to go, okay, I'm just going to dive in. I'm going to dive into this situation. Because resistance makes us unavailable. Resistance is about having to have control. It's not about trying to control move the boat downstream. It's about trying to take something that's going downstream already, and we think we're going to grab a hold of it and turn it back upstream. Because we think that has value. Because we're afraid of losing it.
Again, I always learned that fear was like false evidence appearing real. And most of the time, the things that we fear don't really happen. It's that greater emotional drain is what puts us in that fear zone or that frozen zone, like the deer in the headlights.
Yep.
So, and it's a very difficult position to be in, and it is a growth process. I've experienced all that.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm here tonight because I'm trying to really step out, not to, I've had a salon for 35 years, so I'm not trying to retire, but I'm trying to refire. But in that step, it's like, where do I go? I'm fearful do I really stop and take that leap of faith, or, you know?
Sure. And that's just like you said, see, the only reason all of this is happening anyway is for this purpose. Oh, and there's one more. So we're always learning, we're always growing, we're always got that 500-pound deadlift that we're working on. Okay? If these things never happened, we wouldn't get strong. There would be no emotional development. Emotional development comes from having an experience, working through it emotionally, learning how to move from joy, happiness, grief, sadness, disappointment, expectation, back to trust, faith, hope, making all those loops. If there was no loop, there's no learning. If there's no contrast, there's no learning. But we hate the contrast because of this, okay? And so we resist it. And so we try and control it. And so we actually create more than less.
Or avoid it.
Or avoid it, or put it off
Right.
until we have to deal with it.
How do we fight those negative, for example, I was invited to be an AP reader, which means I go down to Tampa and grade all those AP tests. I am so scared to do it. I've never done it before. I'm so scared of failing that external validate. What if I get there and I'm the only one and I don't really know what I'm doing and I'm amongst all these big, something
Sure.
like that. To a point where I made my airline reservation just so I couldn't back out of it.
Right.
Even though they pay for it. But
Sure.
I truly have been like, maybe I can almost to a point of wanting to back out, which
Right.
is, because it's not that I don't want to do it. It's not that I don't think once I get down there, but there's this negative, and that's what I was saying I'm trying to work on. I am just in this constant self
So what are the words that you're saying to yourself?
that I wouldn't be good enough, that I'm gonna get there and look and just not know anything, that all these smart, brilliant teachers
Okay.
and I'm gonna feel, or all my papers are gonna be horrible, or
Okay.
I'm not gonna be up to snuff, so
Okay.
to speak. And
Okay.
I fear failure,
Okay.
you
Okay.
know.
So, that's valid. We've all been in that kind of boat before. So what do we do? The first thing you do is you take a breath. Okay. What's the absolute worst thing that could happen? What's the worst thing that could happen?
That I don't grade the test well, or or I don't, and I get there and I'm
What would
like,
happen if you didn't grade a test well? What's the worst thing that could happen?
those kids' scores, it's getting into college, getting college credit.
Okay, that you can impact.
That I
you could-
control
you
that,
could-
that I
you-
impact that, and what if it's my mistake and they don't get into.
Do you think you control any child's higher education to any large degree? That
No.
by one stroke of the
I know.
pen.
I know.
Okay, but I'm
It
just
sounds- I
see
know
but
it's-
see what I'm doing?
yes.
But that's the deeper work that we need to know. You go, what exactly am I afraid of? And you take a breath and say, am I okay right now?
Right.
Okay, let me make a list of potential fears that I think I have. Let me honor myself instead of saying, that's BS, throw that out, don't even pay any attention. No. Throw the door open and stare it down. What is my worst fear? Okay? And you make a list. I mean, for people going through breakups or divorces or whatever, it could be
Anything really.
moving out of the house. What do we do with the kids? What about money? What about retirement? Where am I going to live? All of these types of fears that are valid concerns. We just have hyped them up to a sense of fear and some type of conclusion that it's the end of the world.
Right.
All right? Once you do that, I'm confident that if you make a serious list and you give some serious thought, wait a minute, do I really have this much? Even if I were to, I'm certainly not going to intentionally grade a paper well.
Right.
If I go down and I grade a paper and I don't grade it perfectly, have I just destroyed some child's possible life path? No. Okay. Okay, I'm not going to destroy it, and I'm probably not going to do perfect either, because what's perfect? All right, so let me put that aside. Okay, so what can I do? I can go down and do my best. Now you can say, are there any skills that would help me show up available in Tampa and grade the papers to the very best of my ability? I don't know.
Yeah.
If there's any.
Just be, I think, yeah,
It
just
could be
being willing
cognitive skills, it
yeah.
could be confidence, it could be reviewing the material ahead of hand so that, I mean, whatever.
Right.
Okay? And so we can always make those adjustments and say, wait a minute, is there something that I can do that I can take responsibility for, and own my power in this situation? Where's my power? Is my power in the kid? What if the kid honestly does a crappy job? What if he deserves to fail?
What if he was supposed to not get a phone?
There you go. I mean,
See.
so
Right.
the best thing to do with whatever fear, and let me write that word down because we give it so much power because we're human beings and that's just how we're wired.
Yes.
We give it all this power of fear when it is false. You have false evidence appearing real. Didn't she just describe that, Joy?
That's what I really think.
She
of it,
described
because
all this false evidence that she's conjured up where?
In her head.
In her head.
that happens in the dark
That
moments of
happens in the
solitude.
dark
In your
moment,
head
right.
rather than your gut.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is.
Yeah.
It's that.
And so this comes because we don't have, because you're feeling low here, okay, and on trust. Okay? High fear is when we have low trust. High fear equals low trust.
Isn't there a time when fear is good?
Oh yeah, fear is good, especially if I'm in immediate physical danger. If this burning were to catch on fire, the fear of fire or getting burned will motivate me to get out of the building.
But it also
Okay.
might make you make some positive things, even something like that, like maybe leaving a. If you're fearful of someone you're in a relationship with, recognizing that and distancing yourself from them and separating yourself from them would be a good form of fear.
Well, it might help point us in a direction, but it won't. Fear will not sustain you. Okay, because fear keeps you unavailable.
It's an action, so it makes you move and do something.
Right,
You
it
don't
might make
stay
you
there.
move something, but the ultimate motivation is because I want to, not because
Right.
I absolutely have to, unless I absolutely have to in life and death. Okay, but that's the thing. Now you can have a healthy obsession that says I have to become a millionaire because this, and so that while that drives me, I'm still okay if I don't become a millionaire, but I'm using that kind of motivation to push me, okay? But at some point, if fear is our motivation, at some point it becomes unhealthy and it becomes our obstacle, okay?
And
So,
sometimes does it not become paralyzing because the more you were saying, how do I negate those negative thoughts? When you dwell on something that's usually of a negative connotation and you feed it, the more you dwell on it,
Right.
then the more you're giving that power to it, as to say, just the opposite, like, I'm a great teacher, you know what I'm saying? I
Right.
see that with my children every day and how they're learning and how they're expressing themselves. And I think sometimes it's just the enemy that would always try to sabotage our best efforts,
right.
because it's always through our thought life.
It's
Right.
probably where we're at our best, trying to break us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They wouldn't have asked you to pick up
Yeah.
the gun.
Yeah.
They wouldn't
Well,
have. Really, they wouldn't have. You know what I mean? Like, but to remind yourself of that would be
Right. And
a positive way to
exchanging
interact
the
fear.
negative.
Yeah.
Exchanging the negative for a
Right.
positive.
Yeah.
I like to wallow in the negative thoughts.
That's what I said
Sure.
I've been working on.
We
When
can
I'm
do that.
driving long distance and it's that stillness where you're driving long distance, or
Right.
you're up in the middle of the night and you can't go to sleep and you're just in that silent darkness, and then just
Right.
kind of those
Exactly.
those bad thoughts just
And
kind
that,
of,
when you're in that situation, you've got to take responsibility.
yeah.
And you have to say, well, this is where you get mindful, your self-awareness kicks in, and you say, What's going on? Isn't it interesting that I'm feeling this way?
Yeah.
What do I want to feel? See, the problem with fears is focused on what you don't want. It's focused on the worst case. Okay? I'm going to die.
Yeah.
Okay? Or this, I'm going to be alone. Or I'm not going to have any money.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm going to take an action to go do this. So it's focused on what I don't want. We spend less time in fear when we can switch our thinking to, wait a minute, who's in control? See, this is about who's in control. Oh, wait a minute, I am. Okay. What do you want? What do you want? And the more you focus on what you want, the less fear starts to appear. Because you're focused now, I'm going to go down to Tampa and I'm going to be the best grader that's ever been. I'm going to be the best influence on those kids that I can be. And you know what? Yeah, now I can go to sleep. Okay, because that's my intention. But you got to take control of yourself and your thoughts, because you're thinking in words. So you're thinking, what am I, isn't it interesting I'm thinking this? Really? Is this what I want to think? If it's not what I want to think, what do I want to think? What do I want to feel? What conditions do I want to create? And this is true even when we're, in the job process. It's about, the fear is, we're not going to find work, we're not going to have money, and that must say something about us and who we are and what we're doing. Okay? If in order to get past that, if you go, oh, I'm here because I'm supposed to be, just like the turtle, what if this is really the best thing that's ever happened to me, being in between jobs, so that I can find something even greater that I never even imagined? But until you start to believe that, the fear sticks around, because it's this. You don't trust it. You might be able to say it, somebody might hear it, somebody might say it to you, oh, you'll be okay, but you don't trust it.
How do you make that leap though? I want to believe that I can accomplish what I want to accomplish. I
Okay.
want to believe that. Down deep I really do. But I have a mistrust of myself.
Right.
So, because in the past I haven't been able to execute, or in the past I haven't been able to do X, Y, or Z like I had hoped. So how do you switch from saying something to yourself that is supposed to be a positive affirmation in order to retrain my thought life to actually believing it? Like,
Okay,
there's
sure.
a leap there, there's a gap that I can't seem to cross sometimes.
Right, and that's why I got this little measuring tape here, because when you
See,
measure,
I led
When-
right into it.
when
didn't
you
I?
measure it, okay, there's a gap. There's a gap between our current state of mind, okay, about where we are versus what we want, where we want to be, okay? So, what's the biggest thing that could be a block? Well, if it deals with an experience from the past, there's something about that past experience that we can still be attached to that is keeping us from believing that we can restore trust. And sometimes in the business world, if I think I screwed up back then, or I woulda, coulda, shoulda, okay, or I should never have, if only I had, or if only I didn't, okay, as long as that judgment energy is there, that's distrust right there. You have no trust over what you did then. So you restore your trust today by restoring your trust back then.
How do you restore your trust over something in the past?
Excellent question. How do you restore your trust over something that's what happened in the past? So what would our beliefs be about something that happened in the past that would keep us from restoring the trust?
Shouldn't have happened.
Shouldn't have happened.
I think, And I believe that two thoughts can't occupy the same space, and it's up to me. I practice yoga, and in our yoga practice, they teach us, you know, like even in your quiet time, in your meditative time, it's not that those thoughts are not going to come. It's that you have to repel them as they come. You don't want them to stay, to concentrate, you know. I mean, some people look at a candle and watch it flick, some hum or yo, but whatever it is to stay focused on, maybe you want to do a mantra of I'm a great teacher, or, you know, I'm better than what happened to me in my past, or just don't allow that thought to take root and demand the attention that it's trying to get you to have. I mean, you can just refuse to allow a messenger of misery to come into your dwelling.
Well, and that's one that's a powerful technique, is pay attention to your thoughts and replace them.
Mhm.
There's a perspective here, though, where you have a huge opportunity to shift your perspective about your job experience in the past and what happened and how you're viewing it and what you believe about it that has caused you to distrust yourself.
Can you
What
identify
if you-
that?
What if you were supposed to make every mistake that you
Right.
made back then?
Right. Then it's fine. If that's
Yeah.
true, then it's fine.
There's your answer.
If that's true, then it's fine.
What would keep you from accepting that as truth?
I think there was a very high expectation of me growing up to be a kind of a perfect kid and behave like an adult even though I was a kid,
Okay.
and to behave perfectly.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So like, but that's unattainable, and I know that. So when I see myself though in my own behavior not having performed perfectly at something now as an adult, I can't seem to accept that piece of myself
Okay.
easily,
Okay.
as that's something that's supposed to have happened.
Right.
Because in my mind, my initial gut reaction is that shouldn't have happened.
Right.
So, does that answer the question?
Well, yeah. I mean, and see, and here's your opportunity for movement, because I know that once you put the puzzle pieces together
Right.
in your belief process, because this is about looking at your current beliefs and going, those beliefs don't help me.
Right. No, they
Those
don't.
beliefs don't serve
don't.
me. They don't move me forward.
Right.
Okay? And you start to detach from those old beliefs, but the best way to detach from an old belief is to create a new belief so the old belief doesn't come up again and bother you. And so this is a process, and it takes practice and an affirmation. The past was divine and on purpose, just as it was. In fact, if I could go back and change it, I would not.
No, I get it, I totally get
Therein
it.
is the
There's
ultimate
part-
power,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah.
if we could
You have
change
to
the
try
past
that.
again,
Right,
there would have been no loop, no learning. We
Right.
would have showed up perfect in the present, back then, made every single decision perfectly, of which is impossible.
Right.
right.
Okay.
We know that up
Okay.
here, right?
And
When
here's
you're
the
gonna
thing,
express-
is even if you would
Right, that's
intentionally,
purpose.
even if you were to intentionally have self-sabotage, there's almost a way of looking at an intentional act. You still assume full responsibility for it. I intentionally made a choice to do A when I knew I wanted to and should have done B, but I intentionally chose A anyway. Those are the facts. Okay? Learning still occurred.
Right.
More
Okay?
learning occurs.
Outcome, results
Right.
still occurred. Okay? Wow. In the past, I was supposed to have intentionally chosen A. when I knew I should have chosen B, because now I know why. See what I'm saying? And so the gift, the pain becomes the gift. I would go back to those past so-called things, mistakes that you have, and swim around in the knowledge and the value of what those things taught you. Oh wow, I made that choice or that decision. Okay, this is what I learned. Thank you. Thank you, Jenna, for choosing that so that I could learn that. And you bless yourself instead of curse yourself. Okay? And by blessing where you were then, now you can go, there's no reason for me to lose trust. See? My trust didn't go anywhere. I've just disconnected from my sense of trust. It's still here. It didn't go anywhere. Your trust isn't outside of you. It's just looking at yourself differently and going, I trusted myself then, and I made a choice, and I learned something from it. What if I trust myself now and make my choices, but I'm more focused on this? I'm paying a deeper attention to what I learned. In fact, what if what I learned is exactly what I need to know now in my new space? Let me honor that. What kind of energy does the energy shift? Does movement create shift? And then you can go to sleep at night and say, thank you, God, that I succeeded in learning from my past mistake. That's success. Thank you for the gift of all of those lessons. I forgive myself, not for making the choices, but for having a sense of perfection and expectations that I could never have met anyway, because I didn't know what I needed to know then. I wasn't supposed to. So you take the pressure off, you pop the balloon, and you go, if we can't, and this is the biggest thing about healing the past, anything from the past. If we cannot see the divine purpose and the gift of something that's happened in the past, even if it's really tragic, if we can't flip it around, it's much more difficult to heal, and we might never heal it. But once you do flip it around, healing occurs. Once you find value where you think there's no value, once you find trust where you think there's no trust, healing occurs. And peace is restored. And a new perspective comes. Now when your kid decides to go into business his first time when he's 30 years old, what are you going to be able to say to him?
Right.
Or let's say he's now 40, and let's say his business at 30 failed. What would you say to him?
Go back and find what you learned. Accept that as a gift, and then
Extreme value. You can trust yourself. You can trust yourself now because you really trusted yourself then, and the only thing that learned has nothing to do with trust. It just had to do with learning. I was supposed to learn what I was supposed to learn. Now I'm ready to learn what I need to learn, what I want to learn now, what is wanting to be learned now. So I can trust myself. Because what's keeping you from trusting yourself now is that those incidents in the past are over here.
right.
Because you're giving them power and control, but you can't control it. And you're looking to this to validate you,
Right.
when the validation is right here. Does everybody kind of follow how that works? That's how but this requires new words. So when you're scripting, you script new words of healing. I am healed from all the past decisions in the past where I thought I chose wrongly, when in fact I chose rightly because I did the best that I could at the time. I intend to always do the best that I can at the time, but always accept that growth and learning is happening, and I release and detach from any sense of illusion of perfection or that everything is supposed to go perfectly, because there's no such thing. Whatever new business you get in right now, if you were in a new job today, would it go perfectly? So why attach a standard that in present moment is unreasonable onto a past event? Does that make it more reasonable?
No.
So you almost have to call BS on yourself and say, that doesn't make any sense. That's not logical. That's BS. Why am I making that up? And go, no more, I'm not believing that. And you almost have to say, I'm not believing that anymore. It's false. And it doesn't help me. I intend to create a new belief. And even if we're in the space of creating new beliefs, it's okay if we don't have the new belief figured out yet. But if we can affirm, I am open and willing to a new belief about myself and relationships as I release and detach of the ones that are going their divine ways right now. And by creating that openness, an allowance, see, the biggest gift we can give ourselves and others sometimes is allowance. We'll typically give it to other people more than we will give it to ourselves. But you're going, Jenna, you are not allowed to accept. You are not allowed to feel trust now, because you're not allowed to view that moment in any different way. You blew it, you made a mistake, you should have made a different choice, and you didn't. And that's the only way to look at it. Well, as long as we look at it that way, we'll never move. So you gotta say, that's BS. That's a lie I've been telling myself. I can forgive myself of that lie. And I can see now divine purpose in everything that happened, no matter what it was. And trust that, in fact, that where I am right now is a direct reflection of what I learned and a direct reflection of what happened. And that because of what happened, abundance, prosperity, growth can occur. Not in spite of, not. See what I mean?
I'm finding it difficult to get the balance between detach and allow and being both places at the same time. There's definitely an on-off switch when I talk about cycles of like off, detached, like walls, like no, nothing's happening. And then, but when that switch flips to the on, okay, I'm open, here we are, I'm free, here we go, letting it all in. And then boom, you're letting it all in, here's what you get for letting it all in, boom. And then it's like but then it's the strength, and nope, not gonna let that bother me, and it's back to detached. So I don't know how to not like detached, allow, there's no in between. And the cycle of it all, it gets to, like, how do you not get to apathy where you're like, okay, I know what this is, I get it, I got this cycle, I'm bored, I'm not even doing this anymore.
Okay. Well, I mean, that might be a place to explore,
Boundaries.
a breakthrough, okay, because the more we resist something, the more it persists, okay? So the fact that you're resisting your cycle can create a persistence in your cycle. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not allowed to allow and detach, allow and attach and detach and, be in this cycle. I'm not supposed to. It means something about me that I am, and I'm going to judge myself by that, okay? Instead of attachment, allowance, detachment, release. These are some very important qualities, of life and living and spirituality that I love to embrace and I love to practice. I am open to discernment. I am open to new thoughts, new beliefs, new insights about what these things mean. Because maybe it doesn't all mean what I'm projecting on it that it means. Maybe it's less significant. Maybe it's more significant. See what I'm saying? But if you resist being in the cycle persists. If you go, I'm going to do my best and I'm going to show up available for healthy attachments that look like, feel like, sound like, taste like this. So you get real clear on what a healthy attachment looks like for you. And that comes to respect, esteem, acceptance, love, affirmative, values and qualities and characteristics that you get to define of how that looks up. Oh, in the event of a detachment, what would help me make a choice to detach from a situation or a person? Oh, it's not fitting with my values. Okay? I can have, again, if I have the expectation that if I'm rolling a certain way, nothing else pops into my experience at all, I think that's a false expectation. If I go, I intend to show up this way, I know by the principle I'm going to attract more of how I vibrate, but I also know that I have more growing and learning and getting stronger to go. So when something else comes along, I don't attach as much meaning to it except that, oh, this showed up. Thank you for reminding me about this. I'm going to practice this again without any severe attachment or significance. Thank you, universe, for reminding me that my roots need to go a little deeper in respect, esteem, love, acceptance, work, whatever's going on, and that you're just a tree and your roots are growing deeper. And release any other judgment on it. Is that helpful?
Makes sense.
And so when we're scripting, the power of our words are critical in what we're doing, whatever we're doing and wherever we're growing. And remember, scripting is writing as if we already have what we want in a very affirmative and powerful way. So it's a writing technique where we express things physically on paper, but remember, we always spiritually, we create in our minds first. We create everything spiritually first. And then we manifest things into the physical thing, physical experience. And that can be either something we're attracting to us or something that we're letting go. Okay, so in your instance, you're creating your experience in Tampa first by how you choose to think about it. In words. In spoken word, as well as thought words. Okay? So when you got up this morning and you're like, oh, what am I going to do? And I can just hear you. We may even be saying those words out loud, but those words are powerful and they have energy. And that energy has an impact on our vibration and what we create. Okay?
So is it kind of like what we're thinking more in pictures, but we're speaking out in words?
Absolutely. We think in pictures, we can definitely think in images. But even behind those images are words that describe the image.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
So if our energy or if those pictures are negative, do we give them more power when we speak the words behind the picture?
Absolutely,
that we
you
see?
do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, I can
So
see that.
creating it spiritually in our mind with our thoughts,
Right.
whether it's serves us or doesn't serve us, is one aspect of energy and creating. Speaking it out loud with our mouth definitely gives it power and intention. Okay? And so that's why it's so powerful that when you're scripting and you're getting real clear on what you want and you're using very powerful and affirmative expressions that promote healing and movement and peace and new thoughts and new energy, and you say those out loud after you've written them down, you read it back out, and you speak it out there with intention, that kind of cements the deal that you're making. It's like telling the world, telling the universe of your intention. So you're taking it spiritually, you're creating it physically, and then you're speaking it vocally, which is putting your energetic vibration out there. Okay? Because the universe hears our voice, and we speak things into existence. Okay? And we speak things out of existence. The words have power. And when we start to pay attention to our words, we can go, what am I creating with my words?
Yeah.
Let me just see. And again, we don't have to beat ourselves up. It's not about beating ourselves up. It's just going, oh, that's interesting. Is that what I want? Delete, delete, delete. No, I don't. What do you want, John? I intend to, I am open and willing for, my new belief is, I affirm, I claim, I deserve, I am worthy of, I am full of, I am safe, I am valued, I am worth, I am healed, I am healing. So I affirm new words. And I write them down, I write them on my mirror at home, and I'm literally using those kind of phrases up there between the windows. I am open to giving and receiving trust every day. My trust expands for myself, for other people, for situations. In fact, I see nothing but trust all around me. I see trust in nature. I see trust at a traffic light. I see trust at the coffee shop. Trust is all around me. I'm available. I have forward movement. I'm learning and grow. I'm at peace in the process. Divine right action happens right now. Today, everything that happens is on divine purpose. Yesterday, everything that happened was on divine purpose. 10 years ago, divine purpose.
John, where we are in our experiences today, how do you feel like about vision boards?
Vision boards are excellent. I have an old one in there. And I've got a stack of magazines that big just waiting for me to do a new one.
And it's okay to change your vision board as you progress through the challenge or the emotion or whatever that is.
Your vision board is yours. And
If you
so
want to
honor
change it
your
already.
preferences on your board. Make a board with what you want. When it changes, make a new board.
You have a lot of yours you've already attained it, so you need to do a new one with new.
I want to do a new one. Another thing about vision boards is get into what it looks like, feels like, sounds like to experience the things on your vision board. Okay? It's about those conditions that we want to create. We're creating conditions. And creating the condition is better than the end result. Because if I get a list of the conditions that I want for a new car, I might get a fix to a certain kind of car. Now, I might go out and get that car and want to manifest and attract that car into my experience. But what if one day I'm out looking at another car that has the same qualities and characteristics as the one I described, but it appeals to me even more? Oh, I'm going to choose that car. See what I'm saying? So the conditions we create are greater and more important and significant than the actual end result that we get. Okay? If I want to have a conversation with you about something important, I want to create conditions for that conversation. That means I intend to show up available for peace, kindness, respect, listening, speaking my truth, finding a solution, blah, blah, blah. So that becomes my intention when we meet. Now, I'm open and wanting you to show up in the same way, but what if you don't? You might choose not to participate in the conversation at all. Did creating the conditions still serve me, even though you closed the door on the conversation?
Sure.
Absolutely. Do I have to have the conversation to feel the conditions that I intended on creating? No. So there's value in creating the condition, and that's where when you create a vision board, it's about a vision, and yes, certain of those things might show up into your experience just as they are, but this is where you say this or something better. Okay? This or something better. I intend to create this. I intend to create a conversation or something better. Something better might be that person gets out of your experience and just gets out of your way and they're gone.
You don't need to have that conversation.
Okay? And the need for the conversation goes away. Oh. But I was attached to having a conversation and they left. I should have controlled them so that I could have spoken my mind and had that conversation with them.
I was going to tell them all.
Okay? And the universe goes, well, see, you got what you wanted. What you wanted was peace. Oh, isn't it interesting that the way you got it was the person left the situation? Okay? So when we release trying to have that control, and instead we create conditions, that's why who we are is always greater than what's happening. Because who we are is based on the conditions we're trying to create. You know, when we're going through a breakup or something like that, it's hard because we have attachments, we've formed attachments, we've got emotions and sex and relationships and all that energy, which is divine energy, has been flowing back and forth. And so when a breakup comes, boom, it's hard. We don't know what to do. We don't quite know. We've kind of forgotten a little bit, or we haven't practiced self-care in a while and seeing things in a certain way. And so we are attached and we don't want that to move. But then when it's unfolding, we can go, how do I want to show up available in this situation? Who do I want to be in the breakup? I intend to be peaceful, committed to myself, full of self-respect, respect for the other person, releasing judgment, allowing, because they don't have to stay. By all means, if they feel like they have to stay, that's not the kind of relationship I want. Okay, freedom. So I start to focus on creating the conditions of what I want the experience to look like, feel like, sound like, taste like. And then I see what happens. If the person comes back to me, now they've come back to a different person. Because I wasn't the same person. I'm a different person now than I was before the breakup. Why? Because I've been creating conditions. Oh, so you want to come back? That's interesting. Well, let's have a conversation, because what does that look like now? Because I'm a little different now, and I'm sure you are. So how would this look like differently going forward? What would it look like, sound like, feel like, taste like? What would we talk about? Have we resolved any differences? Because in the absence of all that, in my experience, getting back together in the absence of any of that happening just sets you up for something else down the road. There's been no movement. And so scripting about these things in a very affirmative way, expressing gratitude, is a powerful thing to script, because it reminds us that the only thing that's going on is this. That's why Lombardi said, gentlemen, we're not going to pursue perfection, we're going to chase excellence. Okay, we're going to catch excellence, we're going to let go of perfection, and all we can do is the best that we can, and we're going to get real focused on playing football to the best that we can so we can show up available for football. But gentlemen, there's no such thing as perfection, but let's play hard today. Let's execute the plays as close to flawlessly as we can. See what I'm saying? And so you're creating those conditions. So Tampa, what kind of conditions do I intend to create for my Tampa experience? What kind of conditions do I want to create for my job movement? Who am I? What are my values? What do I stand for? No matter what the end result is, I see an end result that looks like this, but in the process I am full of respect, trust, movement, new information, new connections, new friends, new insights, new products, new ideas. Okay? Because by the time you get halfway through that, you might go, oh, I thought I wanted A, but I really want B instead. Then just when you get to B, C comes along and it's even better. And that's how it's meant to be. Change, growth, movement. Keeps us going. Keeps the cycle going. But we're less attached to specific outcomes, and we're more concerned at who we are in the process of living instead of what exactly happens all the time, because we can't control that anyway. We wouldn't want to, really, if we could. So, script. Make it a habit of scripting, watching your words, your thinking words, your speaking words. Go to trust. Look at your situations like this that are going on and choose to see trust and divine purpose. That person or situation or experience has been playing a role, a divine, not just a role, a divine role for you. Deep learning. If you were to have a conversation with God about what happened back then, what would he say to you? Oh, you screwed up, man. You blew it. You were supposed to choose this and you didn't. You are doomed forever. No. Allow yourself to be human. But we don't allow that. It's got to be perfect. Because we have to be perfect. Everything we try to control, we expect perfection. And it has to stick around, because if it doesn't, who are we in the absence of it? And I say, who are you anyway? Who are we? Go out and define that. Use scripting as a tool to get clarity on those conditions that you want to create. And by showing up available, you will be filled with divine solutions and insights to move you through anything, so that who you are in these situations that you talked about tonight and in future situations is greater than anything that's going to happen. And you'll have breakthroughs. You'll overcome. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. Please remember the goal.
I have a quick question before I. So one thing that Joy mentioned, that her thoughts are, you kind of mentioned pictures. I realized, I think 99%, I mean, I can think of a picture, but I talk to myself constantly. So mine are all words. Mine aren't pictures. Mine aren't images.
Yeah, I do wonder.
Oh.
Some people,
I was
some
wondering
people,
if I never thought about it.
I'm exactly the same way.
So, but maybe I'd rather have pictures.
well, and here's the thing too with the vision board. If you do a vision board, put it up for a while, but then put it away. Because remember, it's about creating conditions for getting what you want on your vision board. And until you release the physical manifestation of everything on there and say,
Yeah,
I'm going to now let the universe do its thing, we can think that we don't have it yet. Oh, I've got a nice house on my vision board and I don't have it yet. And we can go, maybe if I keep this vision board up another month, maybe I'll get it then.
In a different setting.
So put it up for a month, 6 weeks, whatever, and then say, the universe now knows exactly what I want. I'm all aligned with it. I intend to create conditions to receive it. What exactly shows up, I'm no longer attached to, and I'm open to receive. Okay?
I think what really helped me was
Found
when you
mine.
said this or something better.
Yes.
Because sometimes we get fixed with my vision board. I'm fixated on what I exactly see on that vision board instead of rotating it out like you said.
Yeah.
It's whether it's a job.
Thank you, everybody.
You know,
Thank you.
It's those